Oh. Ugh. What's new, pussycat? Welcome to my channel. My name is Emma Cownley. I'm a freelance copywriter and blogger, and today I'm coming at you with episode 2 of what I am still only tentatively calling the Red Flag Chronicles. The Red Flag Chronicles. Back in January, I put out a call on Twitter asking my freelance friends to tell me their worst client stories, the red flags that they saw, and potentially things that they learned from the experience. And I think it's really helpful to be able to share that shit with you guys. You might just be starting out. You might find it helpful to kind of hear some cautionary tales from other more experienced freelancers so that you don't make the same mistakes. And also, isn't it just schadenfreude to go through somebody else's dirt and just feel a little bit better about your own life? Yes, it is. Yes. Because Lord knows we've all made mistakes. And sometimes it's just nice to know that other people make mistakes too. So before I start dishing the dirt on some of the tasty tidbits I was sent in January, let's do the housekeeping here on the channel. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it, and maybe even subscribe to the channel if you fancy a long-term commitment with me. I'm not a clingy internet girlfriend by any means. You can leave whenever you want, but I will know that you left, and I will keep your t-shirt. Also, you can make a donation on Ko-fi to me if you find anything that I do here on this channel useful or exciting, or you just want to say thanks and give me a nice little something, because let's face it, with my coarse language, I'm never going to get any sponsors on this channel, and YouTube certainly won't push me in the algorithm. So if you want to continue to hear me swearing up a storm while giving you real facts and refusing to conform to the algorithm, well then by all means, buy me a coffee. I'd appreciate that. Okay. It's been a while since I've read these as well, so the reactions are going to be relatively genuine, relatively good. Okie dokie. Why are these so far away? Why have I done this to myself? How am I supposed to fucking read this shit? Oh. I was working with a startup based in Singapore and San Francisco, which is red flag number 1. They brought me in to do naming and a bit of tone of voice development, but they needed it now. The guy who founded the company told me he was a really good writer because I've taught people for years and I taught myself, and I'm great with languages. He and the other co-founder asked me my process and everything, so I laid it all out, said it's collaborative, I need input, I'd like to bring you in on the journey, etc. Needless to say, the whole thing was fucking awful. All my ideas weren't as good as his were. They preferred their names, they gave shite feedback, and ultimately was so bad that when I went for the routine blood pressure check for my pill, my blood pressure was really high. I told them both that I couldn't work with their feedback and I just needed better comms overall, but that I'd finish the job and leave it there. When the job was finished, the CTO told me I was wonderful, and the CEO, my main point of contact, told me I should have clarified that I needed their input. All of these question marks are warranted. We didn't know how much you'd actually need us. We thought we'd just let you run. Do you know what? I fucking hate it when clients say that. Like, I've got maybe 1 or 2 clients that I've been working with for literally years, and when they say that to me, I'm relatively happy to do it because I've been involved with their company, their tone of voice. I regularly do the same types of jobs for them, and they are always happy to kind of use what they're happy to go with my choices, and if they're not, they change it, and I kind of haggle back and forth a little bit. But those are the only people that I'm actually happy to do that with. Whenever anyone else says that to me, it's pure laziness. Outcome: I got paid, their product still hasn't launched, and I'll never work with red flags again. Also, in a surprise to no one, I was the only woman involved who wasn't someone's PA. Oh mate, that doesn't feel good, does it? I bet that didn't feel good. Next up, little Humdinger from the infamous Nick Parker here. Anytime an agency you've never worked with before contacts you about a project that involves a client call the same day. Oh yeah. When you're in that scenario, you know someone done goofed somewhere along the line and they've fucked up. I think I mentioned this in my last Red Flag Chronicle video, and that is that the freelancer will always cop the fallout. If somebody has planned their project timeline really poorly, or they've made a bad decision earlier on in the process and now they found themselves in a bad way, the first thing they're going to do is call a freelancer, kind of get them on board, you know, which is fine. That's what we're here for. But there's almost a tendency to put the onus on us. It's our problem now. We need to get this fixed. And I'm kind of like, no, babe, this is your problem and I'm choosing to come in and help you. I don't have to be here. I've chosen to be here. This isn't my problem. This is your problem. Let's be 100% clear. Never let a client gaslight you into thinking that their fuck up is your big issue and that this is your huge responsibility. I mean, yeah, if you've taken the job on, it is your responsibility, but never forget why you're there. You're there because you chose to be. And so I think that Nick's definitely right. When these high pressure situations, it probably means that the expectations that they've got are unrealistic, especially with regard to timelines, that they've gotten themselves in a pickle and things are in a bad way. So obviously I know a lot of freelancers who are more than happy to swoop in and save the day. You know, they've got the skills, they've got the expertise. They're happy to do that, and you know they can earn a really good fee from these, you know, last minute jobs. But personally, for me, I don't like pressure, I don't like stress, I don't like to work in those circumstances. I don't do good work, and for me that would be a fucking hard pass. Lynn Swayze, great last name. Lynn Swayze says, clients who just want to copy somebody else's website copy. My shtick is literally the opposite of this. I have had this, of course. I've had clients who want to sound exactly like Monzo, exactly like Apple, exactly like Innocent Smoothies. Stop me if any of this sounds horribly familiar to you. And I've also had a few clients who want to sound like me. They've gone to my website, they've read my stuff, and they said, yeah, can you do what you do on your site but for me? And obviously I have to be like, well, no, because that's my brand tone of voice and it works for me because it's my voice selling my business. I can't use my voice to sell your business. You need to use your own voice, babe. And I think that's true of pretty much that whole scenario. You can't pilfer somebody else. The reason it works so well for them and you like it so much is because a lot of work has gone in to tailor that approach to that business and their target market, and it suits their USP and their product offering, and the whole thing is kind of integrated in some kind of interlocking masterpiece. You can't just steal it. It won't work for you like it works for them because it's not yours. Oh, it's dirty stealing. All right, I've got a really big one here. She is big. Let me just check this is all in the right order because, mate, this is like several screenshots. I'm going to just start reading this and hope that it's actually in the right order. Because, you know, let's wing it. Why not? Okay, here's my absolutely worst story. There have been a few truly awful humans, but in 15 plus years, this guy took the absolute biscuit. I met him following a recommendation from a contact I didn't know very well, but somebody who I admired. It was a writing gig, so I met him, only a 30-second walk from his office as it happened, but I found that out later. 40-minute one-way drive for me. No biggie. I did that all the time. Now spec calls take place on Zoom or not at all. He was rushed in the meeting and seemed to simply want to get out of there. First red flag ignored. I got the vibe that he thought I was old. Just from his rushing and rapid talking and impatience in general. Never had that feeling before. He was in his early 20s and I was 42 at the time, but I've always been told I look much younger at 47. Still, I get lovely people telling me I look much younger. Don't believe them, but hey. And I neither dress nor act old. Anyhow, fast forward to my first day working in their office. I thought I was doing the job freelance and wanted to show up at least once a week to get to know his team. Again, during the 30-minute onboarding, a demo of the software I was to write about, it all felt rushed. He was annoyed and impatient at my questions. I felt like he was treating me like an old lady. Then, fast forward to the end of the day and all subsequent days, I was getting ready to leave. It was a leave at 5 p.m. on the dot type place, and I was clearly taking too long to get on my coat and pack up my laptop bag. They all stood huffing and puffing at the door, waiting on the old lady to gather up. Fast forward to a few weeks in, I made some general recommendations on writing in the company, something he'd already told me an investor had done, and which they had ignored. Massive offence was taken at this. She said I had to fix my commas. Nothing wrong with them. If only commas were this woman's only problem. Then I joked about someone being the new member of staff replacing someone who'd just left, and apparently that gave massive offence, despite none being detected at the time with this person who I got on fine with. Then, first invoice, tumbleweed. I worked on. Second invoice, more of the same. Things got nasty when I called to ask, and when 1 and 2 would be paid, and informed them that I'd have to stop working until they were. He said he'd never agreed to the work plus extras at that price, despite this all being documented. Seriously nasty emails and phone calls followed, including a sinister threat to take me to court. For what, I never found out. Small claims ensued. Staff told me on the phone before I filled in any forms that it was black and white, he was wrong, and I'd defo get paid okay. Massive mental health dive, followed a very stressful 8 months. He complied with about 3/5 of paying me most of the 5k he owed. Then I just gave up even though he had a court directive. Decided my old heart was worth more. Absolutely freaking nightmare person. So yeah, ageism is a red flag. Bizarro. I've heard other women talking about the bro culture in tech, but to be honest, I've only rarely experienced it. And people in their 40s and 50s tell me about being squeezed out. Again, never really experienced it. Until this guy, Narcissist 101, with a healthy dose of bro, and he had defo been listening way too much to San Fran work hard, play hard shite. Heard later it was one of their lovely staff I'd worked closely with who had left a very long-standing gig to come and work for him and left about a month after I ditched. We recently wrote a big list of qualifiers. My husband, who works with me, scored them to a sort of overall score. So now when we get an inquiry, we put them through our qualifying spreadsheet. We have a large weighing forward. Are they nice? Lol. So if someone scores low overall, it might simply be that they're not a nice person. Defo worth avoiding, regardless of big payoff. No amount of Etsy splurge power is worth that stress ever again. Harder than anything I've ever been through, and he was 23. He was a 23-year-old child. Learned to trust my gut. It rarely fails when meeting people who may become friends. So why did I give potential new clients the benefit of the doubt? Do you know what? There is so much to unpack in this story. I think first off, what this person is saying is very true in that you can tell what a person is going to be like from those very, very, very first interactions. If they make a poor impression from the word go, you've pretty much got the sum of them, really. Because if you think about it, those early interactions are setting up the whole premise of your relationship with them. If they are rushing you, they're rude, they're hasty, they expect you to make all the effort, I think that that's already a very good sign that this person is not nice. And even though it makes me feel so guilty, I tend to pass on any opportunity where the person has left me feeling really sour after our first interaction. If I'm like, wow, that was rude, or somebody just sliding into my DMs asking, do you do blog posts, with no punctuation in the message, no introduction? No, I'm not going to work with you. So yeah, that first meeting is already a massive red flag. This person knew it was a red flag. The ageism thing, to be honest, this person is a woman. And I don't think you can ever win if you're going into a very, very bro tech culture. If you'd have been 23, the same as this client, you'd have been a silly little girl that doesn't understand. If you'd have been slightly older, maybe you'd have gotten away with it, but you would have been patronised. Going in at 42, I'm not surprised that you were treated like that. And it's really sad that I'm not surprised, to be honest. But I'm not surprised because older women do get squeezed out of the creative sector. And it's really gross, and I'm hoping it will change thanks to people like Cindy Gallop speaking openly about it. What else have we got here? What other bloody red flags are there? Just general rudeness, isn't it? And an unwillingness to accept criticism as well, to be criticised about general quality of writing. They've hired an expert writer to come in. That expert writer is making recommendations that are valid recommendations, which have been substantiated by someone else, and still the client is not willing to listen or take that feedback on board and is not willing to admit that they are wrong or might need to improve. Why have you hired an expert then, if you already know everything? Holy shit. That really sounds like a nightmare. Good thing is, after I had this conversation and I heard about this qualifying spreadsheet, I thought that sounded like the dopest idea. So I actually went away and made my own qualifying spreadsheet. And whenever I get a new job or a new client land in my inbox, I run it through the spreadsheet and I score each section out of 10. And then I will only accept jobs that are 75% and above. And that's a really nice way for me to make a quick decision and also not feel guilty about turning work down or being irresponsible because that job isn't right for me. Thanks, anonymous person. Next up, no brief, or worse, loads of really long internal documents you have to read to work out what the brief is because the client can't be bothered to work it out themselves. Ooh, laziness again. Do you know what as well? Sorry. I have a cat hair stuck to my face and they're so fine and thin that I can't see it. Fuck you. So here's the thing with me. I'm very, very prone to overwhelm. If you give me a lot of information, I'm probably going to get mired and bogged down in all that information. What really helps me is if you give me a brief with all the top line details and background information that I can use to look and ascertain where are we going, what do we need to do, what are we achieving, what's going on here. And then I can say, all right, I need to know more about X, Y, and Z before I can get into this. And then have them give me that information. That's how I kind of operate best. If you've given me a fucking giant manual on your business, I'm going to have one hell of a time picking out what's important and what's not. And that's, yeah. It's just laziness again, really, isn't it? Thought you might enjoy my nightmare client story. I am genuinely trapped in a toxic relationship with a client. It's an agency that white labels me as one of their team. They're amazing creatives but have fallen into that agency trap of offering too much for too little, promising to turn things around at short notice and letting their clients change their minds repeatedly. I once drafted a single newsletter 6 times. I have now tried to end my relationship with this client 6 times, but I somehow seem to end up doing more work for them. They basically don't have another copywriter who can do what I do to their standard, and so they either keep buttering me up or keep pulling the desperation station heartstrings until I agree to do just one more project for them. Oh mate, I've been here as well. And I think this circles back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this video, where they're trying to make it like it's your problem. It's not your problem. It's their problem that they don't have a copywriter that can do things to their standard. There are plenty of other copywriters out there. They just need to pull their finger out, go look for somebody and hire somebody else. It's not your problem. It's not your responsibility. If this relationship isn't working out for you and you're not happy, you need to get the fuck out of there, especially if you have the freedom to do that and you have the finances to do that and you have enough other clients that you're happy that you can let go of that relationship, because clearly you fucking want to. Get out of there. It's not your problem. It's their problem. That's it. Sick of this gaslighting business. They questioned every single clause of my contract, which was all completely standard, but I was new to freelancing and desperate for work. They ended up not paying me on time 3 times before the project end date. I learned some hard lessons on that one. When we harken back to the first red flag video I did, one of the clients in the nightmare story in that had an issue with paying a deposit up front. I think if they are already having issues with the fact that you want partial payment up front and that you have a contract and your own terms that you want to use, if they're starting to quibble and pick at that early stage, and I'm not talking about asking valid questions and talking to you kind of respectfully adult to adult, I'm talking about quibbling, nitpicking, and stuff like that. They're revealing themselves to be the kind of client that you probably don't want to work for, would be my advice. As soon as somebody starts to do that, I kind of take that as a red flag and I'm like, look, this is standard. Lots of people are happy to sign this. These are not unreasonable terms. Lots of freelancers work under these terms. And if you're not happy, I'm afraid, because you know that's you protecting yourself. And if you give an inch on your protection, you've exposed yourself completely to, I mean, I know that there's this whole thing of clients kind of seeing freelancers as being like the Wild West of employment, and we're kind of lawless. We're like pens for hire. But I've heard more stories about clients doing freelancers dirty than the other way round. I've never met a freelancer who's kind of deviously rubbed their hands together and been like,
oh yeah, I really fucking screwed this guy over, like took all his money and fucking didn't deliver anything.
Like fucking Del Boy and Rodney of freelancing. I've never met anyone like that. And I've met a lot of freelancers. So, I mean, don't give away your protection, because they are more likely to screw you over than you realise. Which is really fucking sad, to be honest, but it is what it is. Okay, so I think I've got enough nightmare stories for one more red flag video. But if you have any nightmare stories that you'd like to share with me, you can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn, or you can drop me a little comment in the box below, and I will of course take your name out of anything that you send me so that you cannot be traced, and I will not use your name in this video and I will not use your photo in this video. So we can keep it fairly anonymous for you. I'm really interested to hear whether you've been in any of these situations, or if you have learned anything from any of the situations in this video today, or if listening to other people's misfortunes just made you feel a little bit better about yourself. Because I know that I feel worse. I feel worse right now. So that's your lot for this video. If you enjoyed this, again, don't forget to give it a thumbs up or subscribe to the channel. And you can find me back here, same time, same place, in 2 weeks for more Kiss My A's. Take care and peace out.